Hey friend, thank you so much for joining me for day 10 of our video mobility series. Today we are focusing all on our back, our hips, and our glutes. Should be a good one, short and sweet. I'll be doing it right alongside you. You may want some shoes today just because it's a little bit more lower body. You might appreciate that stability. Whatever works best for you. Keep some water close by. Otherwise, let's get started. Alright, so for today we are going to start down on the ground. We are going to begin by loosening up our back and our torso. We are going to come to a 4-point kneeling position. So wrists are in line with shoulders, knees are in line with hips, feet can either be flat or pivoted, not a big deal there. We are going to start with a cat-cow. So we are going to drop the spine, lift the head, arching through the back. This is our cow. Switching, tucking through the pelvis, pulling the belly button in, rounding out the back. This is our cat. Alternating between the two. You can use a little bit of intuitive movement here as to what feels good. If you want to rock or sway a little bit. Keep it up here. This is our first one for the day. So take it easy if you need to. Your body might be a little bit stiffer at the beginning than hopefully it is at the end. Couple more. Couple more. Good, and one last cat. Arching, trying to get a good push through that back, bringing it back to neutral. All right, how's that feel? That's a way to start it, hey? Starting on or moving now to our bum, we are going to start seated. We are going to come into a butterfly stretch position. So legs are going to be together, our feet are going to be together, knees coming out. You have a couple options here. Depending on how tight you feel, you can start with legs further out. This is more of an introductory to the butterfly, or you can bring it in, okay? Let's avoid though, just like yanking our body into these positions that don't feel good. So really you want to find that place where there's slight discomfort, you're getting a bit of a stretch, but it's not so intense. Even for myself, I haven't done this stretch in a long time and I have to open it up a bit because it feels quite tight. So hands can be on the feet. If you want to focus on one side at a time, you can put the opposite hand at the back and just do a light push on one side. You might feel this through the groin or through the hips. For myself, it's the hips. If you've been doing one side, you can switch sides. Good, opening up through the knees. Chest stays nice and upright. Let's try to prevent hunching ourselves over. Chest nice and upright here. We can lean forward, but let's try and make that through the pivoting of the hips, not through the assistance of the spine. A few more seconds here. Good, come out of that nice and gently. Your hips might feel a little creaky after that, but hopefully like a good stretch. We are now going to come to a lunge position. So one leg is going to be out front, one leg is behind, The back toe is going to come up. So we are in this lunge position. Both hands I want you to try and put on the inside of your foot. So what we are going to do here from this high lunge position, we're going to drop the knee, a little bit of a stretch there, lift the knee, a little bit more of a stretch, rotate up. Bring it down and repeat. 5 per side because we are taking our time on the lower, the lift, and the rotation. That's 2. Lower, lift, rotate. 2 more. Good, I think this is our last one. Lift and rotate. Good. Okay, bringing the knee down. Let's switch sides. Bringing the leg up. Okay, feet come into, or hands come into the center. Lifting through that back leg. Hold here for a few seconds. We've got our lower, our lift, rotation. Lower, lift, rotation. Keep it up, one last one. Lower, lift, rotation. Good, drop the knee, bring it back, stand up, shake out your legs a little bit. How you feeling? Pretty good here? The next thing we are going to do is a pike stretch, and I should have mentioned this beforehand, but you might want something close by that you can use to assist you. I have this ball right here. We are going to do a pike stretch from a standing position, or a hamstring stretch. So feet are going to be shoulder width apart. We are bending at the hips. There is a soft bend through the knees. Back stays nice and flat. Ideally, we're reaching towards the ground. If we don't feel like we can do that though with our back nice and flat, or if we can't do it at all, that's where that assistance can come in nicely. We want this to be a good stretch, not just like a compromised trying to reach stretch. So we want good form here. So toes forward, slight bend in the knees, hips are all the way back, back is flat, head neutral, leaning into those hamstrings, pivoting at the hip, not as much the spine, not until we get quite far. So you can use that assistance or you don't have to. Now I encourage you to start with a slight bend in the knees, not until you get like crazy flexible. Is it beneficial to hyperextend those legs? You should feel a nice stretch through the hamstrings without needing to straighten out the legs. Back stays nice and flat as best you can. You will notice that as you get further and further to the ground, your back will eventually just start to round. But when we're kind of in that initial phase, we want back nice and flat. A few more seconds here. Good. Bending through the legs, standing upright. Ooh, that feels good. All right, moving into our last stretch for the day, we are going to come back to our hip flexors. We are going to start in a kneeling position. So 90 and 90 with the knees. That front knee though can come out a little bit further. We are going to press into the hip flexor. So leaning into that leg. This is more of a passive hip flexor stretch, so we're allowing ourselves to kind of lean into that full range of motion. Back leg can be flat. Should feel a nice stretch across the back of the hip. Now, if you're feeling it across the front of the hip, I want you to take it back a little bit and do more of an active hip flexor stretch. So where you're less leaning into it and more actively contracting your glutes, pulling your pelvis underneath, and you should notice that you feel more of a stretch in the front than across that hip. Whichever variation is totally fine. Few more moments here. We want to make sure that our knee is not extending past our foot. So if it is, you want to press out that foot a little bit further. Good. You might feel your hip flexor release a little bit and switch sides. Okay, bringing that the foot out. You may want to pillow under your knee. We have the option of the passive hip flexor stretch or the slightly more active, whichever your hips are kind of agreeing with more today. Let's try not to lean forward. We're going to miss out on that stretch. Nice and upright. If you need something to hold on to, by all means. Take it back, come out of that nice and gently. Stand on up, shake it out. How are you feeling? Check in with yourself, your back, your hips, your glutes. How's everything feeling? Did you feel some benefit from that? Thank you so much for joining me. I would love to know how you enjoyed this workout. Also, please remember to subscribe so that you don't miss out on the other videos. We are getting close to the end of this series. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.